Alright, magic systems. This is the 8th video in my Worldbuilding for Fantasy series. You can find the rest of them up in the cards. The purpose of this video series is to give beginner fantasy world builders a jumping off point, and to give you ideas on how different world building elements can affect your stories. This is geared towards writers, especially novelists like myself. Magic systems are a really big topic, and really they need their own whole video series, but for this video I'm going to stick with the theme of this series, which is just giving some overviews and providing ideas on how you can build world building in the areas that you're most interested in. So here are a few different things to consider when you're creating your magic system. First is soft magic versus hard magic. These are terms that we use to describe a spectrum of magic systems. If you think about it like a sliding scale, on one side you're going to have hard magic, which is going to be strict magic systems with clearly defined rules and limitations. On the other side, you're going to have soft magic systems, which are going to be vague and more mystical in nature. Maybe there's some guidelines, or we have a really slight understanding on how the powers work, but for the most part, it's a mystery to the reader. Brandon Sanderson popularized the idea of hard magic and soft magic systems. If you haven't watched his lectures here on YouTube, I highly recommend it to any fantasy world builders. They are incredibly helpful in learning how to write fantasy. So soft magic would be more like Gandalf or a godlike character. We don't know much about how it works or what it can do, but we know that it's there and it's pretty cool. And a hard magic system would be more like Harry Potter. We know what it can and can't do, and we know that there are certain procedures that the characters have to take in order to get a certain result. And of course you can have both. I shouldn't say both because it's not really one or the other. A common way that two of these are used is of course going to be in more classic style fantasies, where the main characters will have more of a hard magic system, while the god character or the otherworldly being has more of a mystical soft magic. Is it still otherworldly if it's already in another world because it's otherworldly to them, so is it double otherworldly? Sanderson's first law states, an author's ability to solve conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands said magic. A really important question for your fantasy world building is who has magic. This could be anything from just one single character to everyone in the entire world. You could have it be that only one of the fantasy races in your world has magic. It could be only people blessed by some deity, only those who survive some kind of rite or tradition, or seemingly random gene mutations that make people have special abilities. This is going to be a huge influence on a lot of your other world building, so do carefully consider it. What I mean is that the more magical characters you have, the more potential I think you have for making things overpowered and overcomplicated. If you're planning on making a large portion or even all of the people in your world magical, it's probably going to be easier if you go with a hard magic system that has strict rules and limitations. And there are two main reasons for this. The first one is overpowered main characters. We fantasy writers really love to make our main characters awesome. The main character is frequently the chosen one or someone with special abilities or super extra powerful magic. Now obviously this isn't always the case, but I'm just saying that if it is, you'll have to be careful. It's really easy to give the main character a lot of power, but the downside to that is that they can seem invincible, which makes writing suspense really difficult. This can be and is frequently done very well. I'm just saying that it is difficult and it's something that I'm always trying to be mindful of. And two is that it makes world building more difficult. The more magical people you have in your world, the more different the world is going to be from Earth. Duh, I know. But here's the problem with that. The further away everyday life in your fantasy world gets from the real world, the more places you're going to have the potential to have plot holes, or I guess world building plot holes. World building holes? That doesn't sound like a very fun place, a world building hole. My initial drafts of Alexia Legends 1 had this problem, and I had to do a lot of rewriting to make the world building more manageable. You get into questions like, well, if everyone can use magic to light a fire, then why do matches even exist? If everyone can teleport, then why do horses even exist? Or I guess why are they domesticated? Having some of these questions is great. You should be having some of these questions. These are the things that are going to make your world building unique and awesome and fun, and readers love these details. But if you've got 30 pages of these questions, just know you have your work cut out for you. Like I said, I've done this, so please learn from my mistake and don't have to do a bunch of rewrites because your magic system is too complicated. After all, Sanderson's third law is, the author should expand on what is already part of the magic system before something entirely new is added, as this may otherwise entirely change how the magic system fits into the fictional world. I have done this. I really wish I knew about Sanderson's laws a long time ago. Next is types of magic. So when you're creating a magic system, you're probably going to start with one of the common kinds of magic systems and then make it your own from there. These could be spell-based systems like you would see with witches. These could be only haunted objects like on the TV series Warehouse 13. You might have elemental systems like Avatar, or individuals who are born with totally unique powers like X-Men. And with that you have, where does the magic come from? Is it created by the user, or is it channeled from another source, like the planet itself, or like from something like plants or crystals? It could also be channeled from a god, another realm, or the people around them. Next is, what are the limitations? Yes, we are going to go through all of Sanderson's laws today, but Sanderson's second law is weakness, limits, and costs are more interesting than powers. The first time I heard this, I was like, totally different view on writing magic. It lets you really stretch out ideas that you've already created, and it makes your magic and world building just feel like it goes on for miles beneath the surface. It's a whole other level of world building and creating magic for your world, just seeing how much you can do with only a handful of concepts. If your characters are using their magic in really interesting or unique ways, that is something that is just really cool to me, and I love reading those elements. Limitations to the magic are going to be things that the magic just cannot do. There's some really common ones, just like the genie. He says, can't bring back the dead, can't make anyone fall in love with you, and you can't wish for more wishes. Pretty simple. And some weaknesses of the magic could be things like it can only be used during a certain time of the day, it only works on certain planets, or maybe it doesn't work on people with the same powers. And along with that, what are the costs? All magic comes with a price, so consider what those might be for your magic system. The price could come from the source itself. For example, if the magic comes from, say, crystals, the characters can only carry a certain amount of these crystals with them. And so once they drain the ones that they have, they're out of luck. And if the magic comes from the person themselves, then it's likely to use up their mana or inner power, which is something they only have a limited amount of. It can also be that they can only use so much of the power because it takes a toll on their body, so they have to limit themselves. And lastly, what does it look like? Usually we go with some kind of swirling mists or glowing lights, and sparkles are always optional. Or maybe it has no visuals. That would be cool too, because then it's a lot stealthier to use magic. And what about sound? Does it make any noise when it's being used? How could that be used in a negative way when your characters are trying to hide or ambush an enemy? And of course, let's not forget Sanderson's 0th law, which is always err on the side of what's awesome. That one's my favorite. If you'd like to dive into the world of Alexia, you can check out Age of the Gods, which is a free short story I'll have linked down below. Alright, that's all I got for you, so thanks for watching. Bye!